She knew the whole time, and the moment she said it out loud, the moment Mila Kunis finally broke her silence, a man known for never showing weakness sat in front of a camera and cried.
And I went, oh, okay. Now I understand what we're up against.
Wow. That's Jim Caviezel, the man who has been blacklisted by Hollywood, the man who has faced threats, mockery, and career destruction for daring to say what everyone else refuses to. And when he heard what Mila Kunis revealed about what happened to Brittany Murphy on Epstein's Island, that was his reaction.
Epstein Island isn't the only thing.
Epstein Island isn't the only island. Let that sentence sit with you for a second, because what he's been saying, is that the network goes deeper, wider, and darker than anyone has been willing to admit. And Brittany Murphy may have been one of its victims.
Dear Ashton, I know the secrets your role model keeps for you. Role model being Danny Masterson. Ones that would end you. Did you forget I was there? You were on speakerphone the night you called Danny on February 21st, 2001, which is the night of Ashley Ellerin's murder.
You've got to be kidding.
I heard everything. I heard the plan.
Someone heard the plan, someone was in that car, and now, finally, someone is talking. This is the story that Hollywood does not want told. The story connecting Ashton Kutcher, Brittany Murphy, Jeffrey Epstein's network, and a cover-up that may have cost a woman her life. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will never look at any of these people the same way again. Before we get to Jim Caviezel's tears, before we get to what Mila allegedly revealed, we have to go back, way back, because none of this makes sense unless you understand one name, Brittany Murphy. For those who were too young, or who have simply forgotten, Brittany Murphy was one of the most beloved actresses of her generation. She was Ty in Clueless. She was the voice of Luann in King of the Hill. She had range, charm, and a brightness about her that was impossible to ignore. Hollywood loved her, or at least Hollywood pretended to. She was also, at one point in her life, very close to Ashton Kutcher. The two reportedly had a relationship in the early 2000s, a period in Ashton's life that is now being examined with a very different lens, because that same period, those same years, are now linked to some of the darkest moments in his entire history. On February 21st, 2001, a young woman named Ashley Ellerin was found stabbed 47 times inside her own home. She and Ashton had plans that night.
I knocked on the door, there was no answer. Knocked again, and once again, no answer. It was a little bit of a mess. I saw what I thought was red wine spilled on the carpet, adding, I didn't really think.
Red wine? He thought it was red wine. The woman he was supposed to be with that night was bleeding to death on the floor of her home, and Ashton Kutcher walked away. He didn't call the police. He didn't call an ambulance. According to what has since emerged, including testimony from someone who was there, he called two people that night, Danny Masterson and his publicist. Think about that for a moment. Someone you care about doesn't answer the door. You see something on the carpet, and your first instinct is to call your co-star and your PR team, not 911, not anyone who could help.
I think Ashton Kutcher may have been blackmailed by Danny Masterson because listen to this. He made a call to two people the night of the murder, Danny Masterson and his public.
Blackmail. That word keeps coming up in Ashton Kutcher's story, and it's important because it's the key to understanding everything else. Now, we need to be clear, Ashton Kutcher was never charged in connection with Ashley Ellerin's death. A man known as the Hollywood Ripper was eventually identified, but what has never been fully explained, what has never been given a satisfying answer, is the behavior, the choices made that night, the calls, the silence, the walking away, and then just 8 years later, history seemed to repeat itself. In December 2009, Brittany Murphy died. She was 32 years old. The official cause listed was pneumonia, with anemia and a cocktail of prescription drugs as contributing factors. Her husband, Simon Monjack, followed her to the grave just 5 months later. Same house, same cause of death, same story, twice. The internet never bought it. Brittany's mother didn't buy it. Investigators who have looked at the case since don't buy it. And now, with everything we know about the networks that surrounded Brittany Murphy during her final years, a new and deeply disturbing picture is beginning to form. Because here is what nobody has been connecting. The world Ashton Kutcher was operating in during those years. Jeffrey Epstein's network, the Diddy parties, the Scientology connections, the Les Wexner pipeline. That world and Brittany Murphy's world overlapped. And the woman who may have figured that out first is the one who just moved out of Ashton Kutcher's house, Mila Kunis. To understand why Mila's alleged revelation is so explosive, you have to understand the machine Ashton Kutcher built his career inside of. Because it wasn't built on talent alone, it was built on access. Let's trace it from the beginning. Ashton Kutcher grew up in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. No connections, no industry ties, no Hollywood family. He was discovered at a local bar and entered the modeling world almost by accident. And the brands that made him famous, Calvin Klein, Abercrombie, and Fitch, weren't just just clothing companies. They were cultural institutions built on a very specific image: hypersexualized youth, provocative, edgy, aspirational. And here is where things get very interesting. Abercrombie & Fitch was owned by Les Wexner, the same Les Wexner who gave Jeffrey Epstein power of attorney over his entire financial empire. The same Les Wexner who handed Epstein his $77 million Manhattan mansion, the building that became the headquarters of Epstein's criminal operation. The FBI later designated Wexner as Epstein's co-conspirator. Ashton Kutcher was the face of a brand owned by the man who enabled Jeffrey Epstein. Was that just a coincidence? Possibly. But in this story, coincidences have a way of stacking up in very uncomfortable patterns. From modeling, Ashton moved into acting. That 70s show. A young, charming, dopey character named Michael Kelso. The role made him a household name, but more importantly, it gave him a circle, a network of relationships that would define and ultimately damage everything that came after. Danny Masterson was one of those relationships, and Danny Masterson is now serving 30 years to life for rape.
One-time sitcom actor and Church of Scientology devotee Danny Masterson is now also a convicted. 10 days ago, he was jailed for 30 years for his violent crimes. But what's been revealed since his sentencing is the support he received from fellow Hollywood stars, including Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis.
They called him a role model in a letter to a judge for a man convicted of rape.
We are aware of the pain that has been caused by the character letters that we wrote on behalf of Danny Masterson.
We support victims. We have done this historically through our work and will continue to do so in the future.
That apology, if you can call it that, fooled nobody.
I think their apology, if it can be called that, was so much worse. I think if you're gonna say anything, you come out and go, listen, his mom called, and you can't say no to a mom.
They seem to miss what people are upset about.
Yeah, right.
So Ashton and Mila in that video do not seem to know what people are upset about is that there are victims and then there are people who are writing glowing character references for them.
They didn't understand why people were furious, or more chillingly, they understood perfectly and chose that carefully worded non-apology anyway. Now, stack that on top of everything else. Harvey Weinstein, convicted of rape, was in Ashton's circle. Diddy, currently under federal investigation for trafficking, was in Ashton's circle. Les Wexner, Epstein's co-conspirator, employed Ashton in his early career. And Danny Masterson, convicted rapist, was Ashton's best friend for decades. This isn't guilt by association. This is a pattern, a specific, repeated, documented pattern of standing beside men who abuse women. And Jim Caviezel saw it. He called it out plainly. One cannot fight trafficking with one hand and embrace traffickers with the other. Ashton Kutcher co-founded Thorn, an organization specifically designed to fight child and exploitation, an organization that earned him praise, award show applause, and a reputation as one of Hollywood's good guys. But the contradiction at the center of that image is so stark, it is almost impossible to look at directly. And what we are about to get into suggests the answer is yes. She knew. Maybe not everything, maybe not from the beginning, but she knew enough. And what she has now allegedly revealed to Jim Caviezel about Brittany Murphy and what happened on that island. That was the thing that finally broke her. Let's talk about Mila Kunis, because her role in this story is more complicated than most people are willing to admit. Mila and Ashton first met in 1998 on the set of That 70s Show. She was 14 years old. He was 19. And from day one, the dynamic between them was, to put it charitably, deeply unbalanced.
Okay. I was so, Ash was attractive and I was a 14-year-old little girl and I was extremely scared for my life. Sure. And he was very nice about it. He was like, oh, don't worry. So I was like, okay. Then Danny goes and goes, dude, I'll give you $10 if you French kiss her.
A 14-year-old girl, scared for her life, and the men around her, including Danny Masterson, including Ashton Kutcher, treated it like a game, a bet, something funny. It wasn't funny. And we now understand far more about what kind of man Danny Masterson was. The question is, what does that context do to how we read everything that came after, between Ashton and Mila? Because Mila spent years in that environment, from the age of 14, with those men, in that culture, and then she married one of them.
I huff and I puff and I blow the duff down! Hillary Duff is in Lizzie McGuire. She also has an album out. She's going to be in a movie called Cheaper by the Dozen. And she's one of the girls that we're all waiting for to turn 18. along with the Olsen twins.
He said that on national television, a 25-year-old man openly counting down until 15 and 17-year-old girls were legal, on camera, with no consequences. Nobody stopped him. Nobody edited it out. That is the environment Mila Kunis lived in. That is the man she watched become famous. That is the culture she normalized, because what choice did she have? She was 14 when she walked into it. Now, here is what the reports are saying. According to sources who have been tracking the Kutcher marriage collapse in real time, Mila did not just leave because of the Epstein name drop in some document. She didn't just leave because of the Masterson letters. She moved out because of something specific. Something she learned, or, more disturbingly, something she already knew and decided she could no longer stay silent about. Reports indicate that Mila has moved into a separate property owned by the couple. She took a solo trip to Europe without Ashton. She has been creating deliberate, documented distance. These are not the actions of a woman who is upset about bad press. These are the actions of a woman who is preparing. Preparing for what? Preparing for the truth to come out. And the truth, according to what has been circulating in very specific circles, the kind of circles that Jim Caviezel moves in, involves Britney Murphy and what allegedly happened to her within the Epstein-adjacent network that Ashton was plugged into during those early Hollywood years. Now, we have to be precise here, because this is where the story goes from disturbing to potentially devastating. What we are about to lay out is based on rumors, emerging reports, and the connective tissue between known facts. But when you lay those known facts side by side, when you draw the lines, the picture that emerges is one that nobody in mainstream media has been willing to draw. Until now, Brittany Murphy arrived in Hollywood as a fresh-faced teenager. By the time she hit her mid-20s, she was one of the most recognizable faces on the planet. She was also, by multiple accounts from people who knew her, deeply, frighteningly naive about the nature of the industry she was in. She trusted people she shouldn't have trusted. She attended events she didn't fully understand. And in the years before her death, multiple people close to her noted that she seemed different, frightened, paranoid even. What was she afraid of? What had she seen? What did she know? Those questions were never properly investigated because her death was ruled a medical event and the case was closed before it was ever really opened. But here's what Jim Caviezel has been saying. Not just about Ashton, not just about Hollywood in general, but about the specific nature of the network that connected all of these people. He has said repeatedly that Epstein's island is not the only island, that the infrastructure of exploitation that Epstein ran extended beyond what has been publicly acknowledged, that there were other locations, other events, other mechanisms through which the powerful protected themselves and eliminated the people who threatened to expose them. And Brittany Murphy, in the final months of her life, was reportedly telling people she had information about people in power, information that someone somewhere very much wanted buried. She was dead 4 months later. Jim Caviezel is not a man who breaks easily. This is a man who was blacklisted by Hollywood for daring to make a film about faith. A man who has gone on record, repeatedly, saying things that the industry tried to silence. A man who, when everyone else in his world was telling him to shut up and stay in his lane, kept talking, kept pointing, kept naming the darkness. So when Jim Caviezel is described as breaking down, as crying, after hearing what Mila Kunis allegedly revealed, that tells you something. That tells you that whatever Mila said, it was not something that even a man of Caviezel's conviction had fully prepared himself for. According to sources connected to Caviezel's circle, Mila's revelation centered on what happened to Brittany Murphy in the years before her death, specifically what she was allegedly exposed to at gatherings connected to the Epstein network. Gatherings that, according to these accounts, were not limited to Epstein's island. Gatherings that took place in settings that have not yet been publicly named. Gatherings where the guest list included people whose faces you know, whose names you have trusted, and whose public personas have been carefully and expensively constructed to make you believe they are something other than what they are.
And then went, oh, okay. Now I understand what we're up against.
Wow.
Now, I understand what we're up against. That statement in this context takes on a weight that is almost unbearable because Jim Caviezel spent years building toward this understanding, researching, speaking out, connecting dots. And when the final piece clicked into place, when Mila's account gave him the full picture, it broke him. Not because he was surprised that evil exists, but because of who was in the room. And we are not going to pretend that we can name everyone who was allegedly in that room. We can't. The documentation is not yet public. The legal process has not yet caught up to the allegations. But what we can tell you is this. The names that are circulating, the names connected to what Mila allegedly described, are names you would recognize immediately. Names that, if confirmed, would make everything that has come before look like a warm-up act. This is why Mila moved out. This is why she is distancing herself from Ashton with the methodical precision of someone who has spoken to lawyers, someone who is protecting herself before the explosion happens, someone who knows that what is coming is not another PR crisis. It is a criminal reckoning.
Dear Ashton, I know the secret secrets your role model keeps for you. Role model being Danny Masterson. Ones that would end you. Did you forget I was there? You were on speakerphone the night you called Danny on February 21st, 2001, which is the night of Ashley Ellerin's murder.
You've got to be kidding.
I heard everything. I heard the plan. In my opinion, you're just as sick as your mentor.
Ones that would end you. That is not a figure of speech. That is a statement of intent from someone who was there, someone who sat in that car, someone who heard the phone call, someone who heard the plan being discussed in real time on the night a woman was murdered. And here's the thing about plans like that. They don't stop at one night. They don't stop at one woman. The same machinery that protected Ashton Kutcher on the night of February 21st, 2001, the same network of calls and publicists and cover-ups, that machinery was running for years. And it did not only protect Ashton, it protected everyone connected to him, including, allegedly, the people responsible for what happened to Brittany Murphy. Caviezel has said it himself. Ashton's statements to police on the night of Ashley Ellerin's death were lies. That is a direct allegation from a man who is not prone to careless speech. And when you layer that allegation onto what Mila has reportedly revealed about Brittany, about the island, about what she witnessed or was told in those years inside the Kutcher marriage, a picture assembles itself that is staggering in its implications. Because Brittany Murphy was not just a friend of a friend. She was not just an acquaintance who passed through Ashton's orbit. She was someone who knew things, who saw things, and who, in the months before her death, seemed to be falling apart under the weight of whatever those things were.
Epstein Island isn't the only
Epstein Island isn't the only island. Brittany Murphy. Let's pull back for a moment and look at the full picture. Because what's extraordinary about this story is not any single element. It is the accumulation. Ashton Kutcher was the face of a brand owned by Jeffrey Epstein's co-conspirator. Ashton Kutcher was present or nearby on the night a woman he was dating was murdered and called his PR team instead of the police.
They seem to miss what people are upset about.
Yeah, right.
So Ashton and Mila in that video do not seem to know what people are upset about is that there are victims and then there are people who are writing glowing character references for.
There are victims, and there are people who protected the men who created those victims. That is the line. That has always been the line. And every single action Ashton Kutcher has taken, the letters, the friendships, the silence, the carefully managed PR, has placed him on the wrong side of it. That is the question this entire story keeps returning to. Not the lawyer's question, was he criminally liable, but the human question. What kind of person does that? What kind of person calls their publicist instead of 911? What kind of person writes a letter calling a rapist a role model? What kind of person builds a foundation to fight trafficking while standing arm in arm with the men who run the networks? The kind of person who has been protected his whole life. The kind of person who learned, early and thoroughly, that for certain people in certain circles, there are no consequences. That the rules other people live by simply do not apply. Brittany Murphy may have learned, too late, what those rules actually are. And Mila Kunis may have decided she doesn't want to be there when the full weight of them lands on the man she married. Here is where we land. Does Mila have the courage to go on record? Will Jim Caviezel name what he heard publicly? Will Ashton Kutcher ever face a day of real accountability? And the question underneath all of them, the one that matters most, how many women are we still not talking about? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Share this video before it disappears. And if you haven't already, subscribe, because this story is not over. Not even close.